Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I'm going to read S666, The Food Chain Frenzy, Chapter 1. Our trip to the Science Museum is going to be great, said DA. She stared out the windows of the magic school bus. I can't wait till we get there. Of course, DA couldn't wait. She's crazy about everything that has to do with science. I was just glad we were going on a normal field trip for once. There was even another class in our grade going. That meant nothing bizarre would happen. I was pretty sure the Freeze wouldn't risk making a magic field trip with Mr. O'Neilley and his class around. I always want things to go smoothly, but this time I had a special reason. My cousin Janet was visiting. My parents thought it would be fun for her to spend the day with my class. So far, she'd have spent the whole bus ride with a nose in a science encyclopedia. I bet the science museum in my town is much bigger than the one your class is visiting, Jenny said, without looking up. I am the best science student in my class, just like DA in our class, Keisha piped up. DA was taking a library book from her backpack. She smiled at Jenny, but Jenny didn't seem to notice. I'm sure I know more science than anyone in your school, Jenny said. My teacher says our class is 3 chapters ahead of everyone else. Oh, brother. I didn't care who knew the most science. I just wanted to get to the museum safely. I kept my fingers crossed that nothing out of the ordinary would happen. We're glad you're with us then, Janet. The more brain power, the better, Carlos said. We have to try to beat Mr. O'Neilley's class in the incredible edibles science challenge. I explained to Janet that Mr. O'Neilley was the other teacher in our grade. Mr. O'Neilley is not at all like the Freeze. His classroom is always tidy. He never plans surprises, field trips, and Miss Frizzle are always making challenges to see which class knows more. The last time we had a contest was a tie. This time, our class really wanted to win. I hope you're all hungry to answer questions about the eating habits of animals in the wild, Miss Frizzle called from the front of the bus. Mr. O'Neilley will hand out the challenge questions after we get to the museum. If we get there, that is, said Tim, frowning. This bus ride is taking forever. He sure was right about that. The magic school bus had been on the road for what seemed like hours. I couldn't even see the other bus anymore, but I did see something that made me worry. Liz, our class lizard, had unfolded a big map. She scratched her head while she turned it this way and that. Oh no, don't tell me we are lost. I groaned and slumped against the bus seat. If we don't get to the museum soon, Mr. O'Neilley's class will start the challenge without us. They'll win. My teacher never gets lost, Janice said. Her hair is much neater than Miss Frizzle's, and her clothes aren't as busy. Uh-oh, I really hope Janet's know-it-all attitude wouldn't cause trouble during our field trip. I knew Janet liked to brag a lot. Luckily, no one else seemed to hear her. That's because Janet's voice was drowned out by something louder, the growling in our stomachs. Is it lunchtime yet? Said Ralphie. I'm so hungry I can't think. That was how I felt too. The hollow ache in my stomach made me feel oozy and tired. Even Liz looked hungry. Her tongue hung limply from her mouth. She stared cross-eyed. at the map, as if she couldn't see it clearly. Class, we need to recharge with some food energy. Pronto, Miss Frizzle said, looking at us in the rearview mirror. Let's pull into this gas station so we can fuel up the magic school bus too. From DA's notebook, all living things need energy. Energy is what makes things move or change. It's the stuff we need in order to walk, run, think, breathe, eat, grow, and everything else. Where do we get energy? Do we get energy? From the food we eat. Food has energy that's stored inside of it. That was music to our ears. We didn't waste a second taking out our lunch boxes. Soon the bus was filled with the yummy smells of cheese, bread, cold cuts, shrimp salad, bananas, milk, fruit juice, you name it. Looking out the window, I could see Miss Frizzle talking to the gas station attendant. She was holding Lee's map and was relieved to know it'd be back on track soon. We might even catch up with Mr. O'Neilly's class if they got to the museum. When the Freeze climbed back on the bus, she looked at all of us eating a packed lunch. Variety certainly is a spice of life, said Miss Frizzle. We humans are lucky to be able to get our food from all parts of the food chains. I've been an expert on food chains since kindergarten, Jen said. Tim looked curiously at the bologna sandwich, an apple in his lap. You mean this stuff comes from a food chain? He said. I thought my mom just got it at the supermarket. Sure, but the food you buy in store comes from plants and animals, DA told him. A food chain shows how animals eat plants and other animals for food. He reached into a backpack and pulled out a library book. Yeah, at least that's what it says in my research. Like I said, DA likes science and research. She opened the book and showed us a page. My book has a better picture of a food chain than that, Janice said. Well, the most important thing to picture, said the Freeze, is that food chains are nature's way of delivering energy to all living things. That's right. I read that every living thing has energy. When one living thing eats another, it absorbs some of its energy. So a deer gets energy from grass, and a cougar gets energy from a deer. Everyone knows that, Jenny said. Uh-oh. Having one science expert in our class was enough for me. Now there were two of them. They were competing. Why did my parents make me bring Janet? I knew she should have stayed home today. This could be a long field trip, I mumbled. Carlos took a crunch bite of apple. That explains why I get such a charge out of eating, he said. An energy charge, that is. Very funny, Carlos, Keisha replied. But where does your apple get its energy? Excellent question, said the Freeze. The energy in plants and the energy we get from the food we buy in stores can be traced back through food chains to one source. Uh, it's the source of all energy on Earth. A really big refrigerator? Have you guessed? No, silly. It's the sun. I don't get it. How can energy from the sun get into my sandwich? I asked. Let there be light. The sun is the source of energy for all living things, plants and animals. Heat from the sun keeps our planet warm. Light helps plants make the food energy that all living things depend on to live and grow. Take your seats, class. Miss Frizzle didn't hear me. After she said this, she just sat back down at the wheel and started the engine. She seemed to be in a hurry. Now that our lunch had re-energized us, we could finally catch up to Mr. O'Neill's class so we could start the incredible edible science challenge. I thought we were headed to the Science Museum. But you know what? As soon as we started to move, something very strange happened. I think the Magic School Bus got some extra energy too. We're taking off. It didn't mean taking off down the road either. The front of the bus tipped up, straight up in the air. We zoomed up into the sky. Carlos squinted into the blinding light that streamed through the bus window. This is what I call an illuminating field trip. We are blasting off to the sun. Chapter 2. The Magic School Bus zoomed upward past puffy white clouds. The gas station where we had stopped was nothing but a tiny speck far below us. Now we'll never beat Mr. O'Neill's class in the Incredible Edible Science Challenge, T.A. groaned. Not to worry, class. I'm sure Mother Nature can serve up the science we need, Miss Frizzle told us. As soon as she said that, the whole inside of the bus began to change. Our seats turned into red vinyl booths with ketchup, salt, and pepper shakers, and a menu on every table. A jukebox appeared at the front of the bus. Magic School Bus is a diner, Tim said. He read the neon sign that glowed above the dashboard. The Eat 'em Up Cafe. A flying diner? I said. I looked over at Janet. How was I going to explain this to her? What about the Science Museum? Janet questioned. My teacher always makes sure field trips go the way they are planned. Fritz far-out field trips make me want to crawl under my bus seat. I would love to go on a normal class trip, just one, but I kind of wished Janet would give Miss Frizzle and the Magic School Bus more of a chance. At least no one else seemed to be bothered by what Janet said. They were too busy checking out a new decor. Ralphie picked up a menu, frowned. There's no food on this menu. I was hoping for some dessert. Really? I looked at the menu that was on the table in front of me and Janet. Talk about weird, the menu didn't list a single thing to it, but what it did have really surprised me. It's the Incredible Edible Science Challenge, I said. The questions we are supposed to answer at the Science Museum. Yes, it looks like we have a chance to beat Mr. O'Neill's class after all. There were 6 questions on the menu. They weren't just questions, they were riddles. Janet and I read the first one. This stuff puts the green into green plants. It helps plants trap sunlight and use it to make food energy for a living thing. What is it? I'm sure I'll find the answer first. Janet said, my teacher says my research books are the best. She opened the science encyclopedia and began reading. Something a little more enlightening in mind told us, class, take a ride on a sunbeam. Push the button, said the Magic School Bus, made a screeching tone. Bus got smaller. Too, a lot smaller. Soon we are so tiny that we seem to become a part of the rays of sunshine that was streaming down toward us. Wow, Fritz cried. Glad this lovely sunlight supplies every living things with all the energy they need to live and grow. We all blinked into the white glare. All of us but Jenny. Daddy, she was so busy reading that she didn't look up. I still don't understand. How can we turn sunlight into food? We can. But our planet is full of glorious green plants that can. Wow. Pointed out at the bus window. Look at all that green. A sunbeam was like a high-speed rocket that zoomed toward the big fields surrounded by woods. Grass looked like an endless sea of green. As we got closer, I could see grass and lots of clover. We were now so small that each round clover leaf looked like an enormous landing pad. We're going to crash land. This is the part I really don't like about Freeze field trip. Braced myself, waiting for us to smash into the leaf, but we didn't crash at all. Struck the clover and went inside the leaf. We turned on the green light. The green color is from the clover leaves. Chlorophyll. She pointed at some green clusters that were bunched together inside the clover leaf. chlorophyll certainly is as color to plants' life. It has another job too, one that's even more important. The substance that exists only in green plants, a special kind of bacteria. This weird green light is making it harder to read about what makes plants green. She frowned and held the book closer to her eyes. We can do more than read about it. We can see for ourselves. She pointed to the green clusters outside the bus window. That chlorophyll allows plants to trap sunlight and charge it into food energy that plants and animals can use. Quite right. Wow. Animals cannot change the sun's energy into food because they don't have any chlorophyll in their bodies. But the plants have the right stuff. Keisha's whole face lit up when she heard that. Then chlorophyll is the answer to the first riddle. Bravo, Keisha. Just then, Janet pointed to a spot in her science. I found it. Chlorophyll is the answer. It makes plants green and traps the sun's energy. Is there an echo in here? Carlos said. I couldn't believe it. Janet had been so busy reading that she didn't even recognize you had already answered the riddle. Janet filled in the blank on our menu of incredible riddles. I'm sure I'll find more right answers than anyone else. Second riddle. Plants follow the recipe for making food. Mix together sunlight, chlorophyll, water, and carbon dioxide gas, and presto. What's the name of this process? More confused than ever. We keep hearing about how plants make food, but I don't see anything to eat. Let's take chances, get messy, and cook up some plant food. Open the bus door. We all flew right out of the bus. Miss Frizzle, Carlos, Janet, Ralphie, and Phoebe floated straight toward some water that flowed into the clover leaf from the roots and stems. D.A., Keisha, Tim, Wanda, and I landed on bubbles of gas that gurgled up through some holes at the bottom of the leaf. It figured that Janet and D.A. held on to their books. Somehow I had hung on to something too, the menu of our incredible riddles. My teacher never pulls messy surprises, Jenny said. She wiped the spot from a book. How can I research about plants making food with all this guck? It's more than just guck, Wanda said. It's water and carbon dioxide gas. Those are the ingredients plants need to make food. Remember? I know that. I've got all the information right here in my book, after all. She didn't seem to realize the information wasn't just in her book. It was all around us. I had a feeling the answer to the next riddle was taking place right in front of our eyes. So small that we had actually landed on top of the tiny particles that made up the water and carbon dioxide gas in the leaf. I grabbed the particle and held on tight. Oh, the sunshine and chlorophyll around us made everything seem really bright and green. Sun's hot energy made our atoms shake like crazy. Harder it got, the faster the atoms moved. Don't look now, everyone. But these molecules are the busting apart. Ralphie was right. Something was about to happen. I could see how the atoms had come together to make molecules. For the sitting on an oxygen atom that was attached to two hydrogen atoms, there was a water molecule. I was on a carbon atom. It's connected to the two oxygen atoms that Tim and Wanda were grabbing. We made up a molecule of carbon dioxide, but not for long. Things were starting to change. Pop, carbon dioxide and water molecules started separating into atoms of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen that floated inside the leaf, with us hanging on to them. A carbon atom pulled away from Wanda's and Tim's oxygen atom. It's an explosion. Our knuckles were white from holding on. The atoms were moving fast, and everyone looked terrified. But almost everyone. Jenny was so busy reading that she didn't even see what was happening. I couldn't believe she hadn't fallen off her atom. And there was the freeze. She was as cool as a cucumber. Not to worry, class. It's not an explosion. It's photosynthesis in action. Photo what? We're moving too fast to here. Our atoms were swirling around so much that I started to feel dizzy. Then I realized that my hydrogen atom wasn't alone anymore. It was swooping toward other atoms. Before we knew it, almost all of the carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen atoms had joined up in a small group. Presto, we are a glucose molecule. Glucose is kind of carbohydrate. The tasty meal for any plant is the food energy that plant uses to live and grow. I looked around and saw my classmates still clinging to other carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen atoms. They were bonding together to make glucose. Then I noticed there was some oxygen atoms left over. They were floating back out through holes in the leaf. So plants are like food factories. Thanks to photosynthesis, plants make glucose and other carbohydrates that the plants use for food. And the oxygen that's left over goes into the air, where animals and people can breathe it, I said. Shh, without looking up from her book. How can I read about plants making food if you keep making noise? We just found the answer to the riddle, Phoebe said, giggling. Photosynthesis is like a recipe for making food in plants. Absolutely, you should know how to shed light on how plants make food. Jenny finally looked up from her book. I was just about to get to that part, she said. Janet grabbed the menu of riddles. You're lucky I came along on this field trip, Arnold. Your class would never be able to win the blah blah challenge without me. Everyone in my class just stared at Janet. She hadn't noticed a single thing that was going on. She still wanted credit for the answer, but at least we're getting the answers. I hope Mr. O'Neill's class wasn't ahead of us, but they had been at the museum for hours by now. Here, there's a bus, Ralphie said. He pointed at some new water molecules that were flowing into the clover leaf. Sure enough, there was a magic school bus with Liz at the wheel. She steered the bus toward us, and we all climbed on board. Once we were inside the bus, we sat back down in the booth of the Eat 'em Up Cafe. Miss Frizzle, since green plants make their own energy, they add the startable food chains, right? That makes sense. Green plants don't eat other living things, but other living creatures eat them. You get the picture? Since animals can make their own food, lots of animals get the energy they need by eating plants. She steered the magic school bus out onto the top of the clover leaf. The bus got bigger. We were about as big as a ladybug. As we sat on the leaf, we looked out into the field. Look at all the rabbits, mice, and grasshoppers in the field. The rabbits are eating clover. Aren't they cute? I mean, rabbits are okay, but not when they are 50 times as big as I am. Gigantic furry monster. Every time one came near us, our leaf shook like crazy. I did some shaking of my own too. The freeze was not nervous. Far from it. Isn't it lovely to feast our eyes on the food chain in action? We didn't get a chance to answer. Wanna know why? As soon as that rabbit finished a blade of grass, it opened its mouth to chomp down on the next closest plant, our clover leaf. Uh-oh, you're about to become rabbit food. The end.